Hi everyone, welcome to this week. We are going to take a look at the future and imperfect of third IO, and fourth conjugation verbs. All right, first we're going to do some reviewing of things we already know. Take a look at the new stuff. All right, so this is the imperfect of first conjugation verbs. You might remember, the BA. That signifies first conjugate, the imperfect. That's the tense sign. All right. So remember that all imperfect verbs are going to be present stem. All right. Plus the characteristic vowel. All right. Plus BA. Plus the endings. All right. But remember that BA is our key to the imperfect. That's going to be the case for third IO as well. So this is second over here on the left. All right, and again, we're ignoring the passive for now. We'll get to that. And then this here is third. Okay? You'll see that between second and third, there really is no difference in terms of the characteristic vowel. But the most important thing is to recognize that BA. All right, because for third, fourth, it's going to be basically the same formation. So stem, characteristic vowel, BA, and endings. All right, stem, characteristic vowel, BA, and endings. All right, remember that the imperfect is translated was or were verbing. Most commonly, sometimes it will end up sounding like a perfect verb in English, so just like your ED form. But strictly speaking, technically speaking, the imperfect is was or were verbing. All right, and that's really all there is to the imperfect. You don't really have to learn anything new. It's just a transfer of knowledge from what you already knew, which is that BA to the new verb forms. When you're going English to Latin, just watch out for the characteristic vowels. Again, the third, these are the characteristic vowels. Third will be E, third IO, and fourth will be IE. All right, but again, that will really only be for when you go English to Latin. Latin to English, you're just recognizing that BA, and that signifies the imperfect. All right, now, future gets a little more complicated. Again, you might remember that for first and second conjugation, present stem, plus characteristic vowel, plus BI, plus endings, with a few exceptions, right? So like the first person singular, the third person plural, right? Otherwise, it is BI. But for first and second, BI was your key. Now, that's going to change for third IO, and fourth. So here's second, right? And you can see the BI throughout. All right, here's third. And you notice immediately that there is no BI. All right. What happens for third, and this will be mostly the case for third IO and fourth as well, is that it goes this ace et. I tend to call it ham and 5 eggs, a vague Dr. Seuss reference. All right. So there's your AM. Sorry, wrong color. There's your and there's your E, which is going to run through the rest of the endings. All right. So first person singular is that A, and then you've got E throughout. Okay. Now it looks funny because we're used to these no tense sign forms as being present, but this is our first instance of no tense sign being a different tense from present. In this case, future. The other thing that you have to watch out for, and this is to some extent unique for third conjugation as opposed to third IO and fourth, is now if I have a form like doquet versus ponet, okay, doquet is going to be present, ponet is going to be future, even though they have the same vowels. And this is because doquet is second conjugation, dokeo, dokera, and ponet is third conjugation. And so as we expand our verb forms, this overlap, and we saw this happen with nouns as well, this overlap is going to increase and become more complicated. And this is the first instance of that. So doquet with that E present because it's second conjugation, ponet with that E future because it's third conjugation. So the good news is, you're not really learning anything new again. Obviously, the formation is a little different, but it follows the same basic formula as one to which you're accustomed. But it does require you to know the vocabulary to tell these forms apart. So third IO and fourth are going to use the same basic idea, but as we've seen, there's going to be an I involved. So instead of just a straight E, it's going to be an IE. In the first person, instead of just a straight A, it's going to be an IA. All right, so again, same basic idea, but just an I added on. And as is the case with future in general, will verb, or will be verbing, is going to be the translation. All right. So, excuse me, I made a couple flowcharts here just to kind of illustrate things in a slightly different way. All right, so first, what's the conjugation? And this is really when we're going English to Latin. So what's the conjugation? All right, if it's first or second, we use bi. If it's third, third IO, fourth, we use that ham and 5 eggs. And of course, knowing that with third IO and fourth, there's an I involved. All right, and so here's a little exercise to practice that. All right, so in other words, third plural present of dormio, dormira. So first I have to identify the conjugation with that IRE. Remember, we always identify conjugation from the second principal part. That is fourth conjugation, right? So I go this way. And because it's fourth, I add that I in, all right? So this is going to be, I'm going to squeeze it in there. Sorry, it's a little tight here. All right, so dormient. One thing with the future, there is no change. Remember, the ent sound is something that the Romans were okay with. The reason in the present the I changes to a U is the Romans did not like that int sound. They don't have that problem with the ent sound, so everything stays the same. All right, if we look at number 2, Lego, legera. All right, that is going to be third conjugation, first singular future, legam. That first singular is the A. Right, so that is why it's legam. And just remember, for the ERE forms, all right, so if it's EO in the first principal part, it's second. If it's just O, it's third. If it's IO, it's, third IO. All right, so if you have an ERE form in the second principal part, the way you tell those apart, and yes, the third conjugation is short and the second conjugation is long, but let's assume for the moment there aren't long marks involved. You go to the first principal part to tell those apart, and so EO is the second conjugation, O is the third conjugation, and IO is third O. All right. All right, so Latin future in general. Okay, so Latin to English, right? So is there a tense sign, right? BA or BI. Now we're identifying things. Right? So if there is a tense sign, right, obviously BI is going to be future and BA is going to be imperfect. If there's not a tense sign, things get a little more complicated. And again, this is when you're identifying the tense of Latin verbs. So again, you've got to identify the conjugation, all right? And then if it's a first or second conjugation verb, it's automatically present because that's the only form for first and second conjugation that does not use a tense sign. If it's third, third, and fourth, right, depends on what that characteristic vowel is. If it's I, obviously it's present, and if it's IA or IE, it's future. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. As I said, just like a regular old flowchart, you kind of just move right through it, kind of do what it says, answer the questions, and that at least will sort of formalize, hopefully, the way to do this. It should be a little more, excuse me, natural as you get better at it, as you practice more with it, but this might be a good way to practice and get used to that. All right. All right, so these are all single vowels here, right? So patemos, fugimus, audies, finiatis, veniunt, scribet, etc. All right. But we've got to figure out whether they're present or future, and that will be entirely dependent on the conjugation. All right. Now, for number 1, you really do need to know the conjugation because that E can go either way. It's peto, petera, third conjugation. That E is going to make it future. Now for number 2, that I can only be present tense, right? The I can't be anything else. So you don't have to know conjugation there. You know it has to be present, all right? So for the IEs, make sure that you know it's not, there's an I in the stem of a second conjugation verb. Rare, but possible, all right? Same with when und, right? That has to be present because that U can only be present. And scribet is tricky. Be careful of scribets. The hint for number 6 is you need to make sure to know the stem. The stem is the key. All right, so identifying the conjugation. All right, and then we are identifying the tense of the form. And this is all verbs, or verbs from sort of all conjugations, or at least most conjugations. Scanning it, looks like there's no first. So incipitis, all right? So we've got IO and ERE. That means it's third IO. But with that I in the form, that means it's going to be present. All right, persuadent, EO in the first principal part with an ERE second principal part. That means it's going to be second. All right, and if it's second, that means it's going to be present. All right, excuse me, patamus, ERE with O, that means it's third. E for third is future, so that means it's going to be future. So plenty to practice with / choose from. All right, and this is the same flow chart we already saw. All right, now you're identifying verbs by person, number, tense, and mood. All right, indicative or imperative, and then translating into English. So plenty of practice here, and now we're dealing with all conjugations, all tenses. So note that we've sort of scaffolded things such that it started relatively straightforward and limited, and now we're throwing in different variables. So make sure you're good on the stuff that came before you move on to this one. All right, so BA is obviously going to be imperfect. I'm not going to include the other information. Duquette comes from duco, ducere, so it's going to be future as a third conjugation verb, and off you go. All right, now, I thought I'd put these next to each other. This one on the bottom right, interesting enough, is from Detroit. It's apparently a city motto of Detroit. The problem is the Latin is fairly incorrect, which is sort of amusing. I don't really know the origin of it or who sort of penned it, but if we're being technical, I hit a button there. If we're being technical, it really should be Speramos. I looked up Sperimus, and it doesn't really exist as a form. And it means we hope for better things. Oh, sorry, we hope that better things will rise from the ashes. You can see here, apparently there was a big fire in Detroit in the early 20th century, and this was sort of done in recognition of that. But as I said, the grammar is sort of all over the place. Is not nearly correct. But what you do have is a future tense third conjugation verb here, right? Will rise from the ashes. That's resurgo, resurgere. So a good example of the future tense in action. And I put it next to this second conjugation future verb here. So you can see the BI for second conjugation and the E for third conjugation. All right, so just compare. All right. So another comparison. So this is from a college in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. Not Bryn Mawr College, obviously. But what we have here is prevenient. It's a fourth conjugation verb. It's actually a compound verb, venio, venire. I think you're familiar with. You can see that IENT. That's the future tense. All right. So deeds, all right, come before words. So deeds will come before words, right? And then to compare, over here you can see the UNT. That is the present tense. You can see the und versus the ent, right? So the UNT is going to be present tense. The ENT is going to be tense. All right, and here's just a closer look at the Detroit one. All right, again, that E for the future. All right, and then here, this is actually from the show Better Call Saul, which maybe you've heard of on AMC. Anyway, this is a kind of made-up university, but they do have a Latin motto for their made-up university, and that Latin motto includes not one, but two, that color's not great, two future first-person verbs. Inveniam, viam, aut faciam. All right, and those are both third IO, venire, nope, sorry, invenio is fourth conjugation, facio is third IO, but same form in the end. All right, I will find my way, or I will make my way, right? So inveniam, I will find, viam, or faciam, I will make, again, viam understood. So I will find my way, or I will make my way. All right, so let's go to the summatives. So you're just translating the verbs below. You got some practice in this earlier. So remember to identify conjugation. All right. Conjugation will be necessary, say, for number 2, where you have that single E. For number 4, where you have that single E. All right. Those are probably the trickiest ones. And then same as before, watch out for scribam, right? Again, the stem will have a lot to do with it. There are also some imperatives thrown in, so be careful of those. All right, and the writing summative. So in part A, you're going to complete the stem, all right, in sort of what it's supposed to be. So first plural for audio, so it's going to be audiamus. All right, and these are all going to be future. So just keep that in mind. So number 2, regam. All right, and then in B, you're going to do the present, imperfect, and future. All right, and so the pronoun gives you who the subject is going to be. So is going to be he. AE and AI are going to be third person plural. All right, but you can see here's the present, here's the imperfect, and here's the future. All right. All right, so that is it for this week. Please be in touch if you have any questions via email. And I'll be here next week. Thanks.